Hello and welcome here to TalkFCB and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, for a video that I'm genuinely really excited to bring you, because coming up today we're going to be going over Hansi Flick's commandments in charge of Barça as the head coach, because we're going to be talking about the changes he's made to the culture inside of the club there. And I think some of these changes, some of them you may expect, but some of them you may never have seen coming. It is all going to be on the way for you. I hope you're going to enjoy it. Thanks for joining me, and let's do this. Now, today's extra special video, guys, is coming to you courtesy of Manscaped here today, because you know what? It is never ever too early to start your Christmas shopping. Whether you are shopping there for your dad, brother, uncle, cousins, whoever it is, Manscaped will get you sorted out with the gifts that you need, especially when right now their lawnmower special editions, they are still available. You can get the white gold and the forge gold edition, and you know what? Just imagine that, rocking up to Christmas Day, gifting this, Dad, I have literally given you a gold lawnmower. I mean, he's going to be forever in your debt. That is an absolutely top-notch gift that, look, even he cannot fail to appreciate, guys. If you want to get yourselves some fantastic Manscaped products for this Christmas period, please do head over to the website now, and don't forget, you can get 20% off your order simply by using the code TalkFCB at checkout. It's a big help to the channel, and a big shout out here to Manscaped for all of their support, and exactly the same to all of you guys. Because indeed, guys, let's kick off with the man himself, the main man at Barca, the man in charge of everything, overseeing everything, and responsible for driving results and success at this club. It is Hansi Flick, and of course during his time at the club so far, we have seen a clear change on the field and indeed off it. And I thought that's why today we have to look at some of the insights that we've gained here on what he's done, what he's changed, what he's looking here to create at this club, because it's more than about just what we're seeing out on the field. It's more than just about the tactical changes that we've seen, the physical changes as well in this group. It goes deeper than that. It runs much deeper in the day-to-day activity of these players at the club, guys. And what we're discussing today has been circulating in the media throughout the international break, and I want to talk about some ideas that, yeah, we've seen at the club before. Some of them do follow on from previous Barca coaches, but some of these I have never, ever seen before. And I think the most important thing about all of the kind of commandments that we're going to talk about here today, it's not just that they exist, it's not just here that Flick has tried to introduce them, it's that they are being properly enforced. And because of the kind of leader and the kind of character Hansi Flick is, we're not just going to lose sight of these. These are not just going to be things here that are brought in for a few weeks, a few months, you know, the first half of the season. These are non-negotiable commandments from him. As long as Hansi Flick is in charge at Barca, this is the standard, and this will be expected of every single player. Now, first up, guys, we have to talk about the meals at Barcelona right now, because mandatory meals at the Ciutat Esportiva are indeed being enforced by Hansi Flick. The entire squad there is required to eat at the training facility, and this is one here that we did indeed see under Xavi, and under Flick there is a real emphasis too on nutrition, on making sure here the players are getting good foods for their body and understanding the right preparation, because the club's nutritionist there actually prepares a buffet which all players then, they select what they want to eat. There's a chosen group of foods, it's all laid out there for them, and then they can decide what of the approved foods they want to put inside of their bodies. That's really important there, because we've also got, and this is one that I haven't seen too often at Barca, daily weigh-ins. Players must actually check in with the club, and their weight must be checked every single day before training. So you certainly can't get away here, guys, with eating at the training centre, eating with all of your teammates there, the approved club meals, but then going home and tucking into a big pizza. That ain't gonna happen. It might sound nice, but you can't do that. Hansi will be on to you in a flash. But of course the weigh-ins there actually, guys, are for more than that as well. They're important there to check on recovery, of course, and so many of these Hansi Flick commandments are all designed with the ambition of injury prevention. Now, we know at the club, of course, you can't completely eliminate injury. injuries, especially with the fixture schedule that we were talking about in yesterday's video. It's very, very difficult to do that, but what you can do is try to reduce the risk, and that's the important thing here, minimizing that injury risk as much as you possibly can, and that all comes from the preparation. What we have also learned under Hansi Flick is the importance of punctuality. Players must all arrive 90 minutes and no less before training actually begins, and Flick is very insistent upon good punctuality across all areas of preparation there, and the match day as well. You've got to be on time, team meetings, everything like that. It's very, very important. But what's interesting here is that in terms of actually breaking rules here, if you do not conform to any of these, if you slip below the standard that is expected, well, guess what? There are absolutely no fines at Barcelona, and there's also no motivational challenges here to get the players pulling in the right direction, because Hansi Flick does not believe in fines. He does not believe in challenges, and that for me is exactly the right approach, because I've always felt here, fines for professional footballers, what is the point? They are incredibly rich. They get paid a fortune every week. Fining them is going to do literally nothing. And we also shouldn't have to try to incentivize players to act professionally with challenges. Because I think here, when it comes to punishment for breaking the rules, Flick knows he has the power, and we saw that, by the way, when Jules Koundé was left out of the lineup against Alaves there. He arrived late for the pre-match meeting. That is not acceptable under Flick, and he showed him that. He was left out of that lineup as a result. Now, that's the way you get your message across. It's not by fines, it's not by challenges, it's not by anything like that. You take action on the field where it hurts most. That sends out your message. There has also been plenty of change here, guys, to the matchday schedule under Hansi Flick at Barca, because what you're actually going to see here are routines being built. Because the idea is that at the very, very top level, you prepare for matches in exactly the same way. Every time, every game, doesn't matter who you're facing, doesn't matter whether it's a big game or not, you prepare yourself, your body, your mind, to be at your best possible level. And I think for athletes here, at this kind of level, at the very, very elite level, you need those routines. You need to have something that you can go to and you can sort of depend upon when you need it. Every single match day there, to get in the zone, to feel like, okay, this is it now. My preparation begins here and I'm getting ready. This is match day. And what we have here on match day are morning activation sessions. Every match day here, the players will go through that session together with the squad and with Hansi Flick. And we've heard Flick speak about these activation sessions in press conference as well. It sort of gives them an idea of how the players are feeling, both physically and mentally there ahead of the match that day. And it's nothing too intense. It's basically like a warm-up session here on match day to get the muscles prepared, to get the muscles going, not only for the match itself, but also again thinking about injury prevention. But what I thought was interesting too is that every single match day, even if the game is at home, the entire squad must meet at a hotel ahead of that match for the full team meeting before every single game. And that's a really interesting approach there, because obviously what that does firstly is keeping the squad all together. It keeps everybody focused and away from distractions, and you think maybe this would be very, very effective when it comes to big games there, keeping everybody in the zone, away from the spotlight, away from distractions. That's important. But then of course, if you only did that for big games, if you only stayed in that hotel together when the really big games are ramping up, maybe then it would feel like a big deal. Maybe then you'd start to think, whoa, we're doing something a bit different here. This is big pressure. These are big situations here. We've stepped away from our routine. That's why it's important here that we do this every time. Whether it's a big game, whether it's not, we go to the hotel, we stay together, we work together, and we get ourselves ready for whatever challenge is about to face us. But then it gets more interesting after the game, because this is also really, really important. You might have already played the game, but then after the game, we are focusing on post-match rest, because nightly return trips have been taken away now at Barcelona. If the team is playing in an away match, for instance, that starts at 9 p.m. at night, and the flight there is over an hour and a half long, they will stay in the city. They will stay in a hotel overnight and then travel back the next day. And I think that's a really, really important thing here, because I remember the past few seasons at Barca, we've seen the team returning to Barcelona from away games in the early hours of the morning there, because you imagine it, it's a really hard-fought away game, and then you're coming back, you're arriving back there in the city, early hours of the morning. It just doesn't really seem right there for a team who are so professional, who want to do everything here in terms of keeping ourselves in the best possible condition. Look, I'm all for cutting costs. That's why Barca effectively did that. But surely one night here in a hotel after a late game, it might be worth the cost. If it actually means they're reducing the risk of injury to players here who can literally decide how successful your season is going to be. So things like this here, I know the club before have wanted to cut those costs, but some things are worth investing in for the good of the team, for the sake here of keeping those players in the best condition and eliminating those very, very late night trips. I think that can only be a good thing, guys. But what about training there? What is Hansi Flick's approach to the training sessions and indeed the rest days at Barcelona? Well, first of all, let's talk about those training sessions. We know under Flick they are very, very intense. Every single session there is designed to push you, to work you, to acclimatise you to what he expects from the team and indeed they're out on the field. But what we're also seeing under Hansi Flick is a lot of different analysis. Now in training, each of the players there have to wear GPS devices that will monitor their physical output in those sessions to understand, what each player is giving, but also, again, very focused on injury prevention to understand there if those workloads are becoming too much, too extreme and too intense. So that's really, really important too. And like I say, Flick at Barca has definitely brought more analysis, both in training and also there when it comes to matches, of course, at the club. We've seen several different analysts actually brought in to his coaching staff. We know that from a tactical viewpoint, everything is really analysed with a fine-tooth comb after every single game, and that's whether we win, whether we lose, everything is gone through there and discussed with the rest of the squad. But one of the things that I found to be really, really interesting about Hansi Flick's whole approach here at Barca is to do with professional boundaries at the club. This is very, very interesting because apparently Flick, he does maintain there a suitable distance from his players, because obviously we see him on the touchline, we see him during training sessions there, he's close with the players. They speak about the fact here that even though Flick is very serious, he's very direct, but he can be a warm character. He can put an arm around a player if they need it. He can be close with them there, and he's always said, look, my door is open. You can always approach me. You can always talk to me. I want to hear your feedback. But even with all of that, I think the feeling here that Flick is really keen to sort of hammer home, and to a young squad as well, I'm not your friend, though. At the end of the day, I'm still your coach. You still have to be led by me. And I think that's a really important boundary here, that even despite that close relationship with the squad to create that tight-knit group, we still have the dynamic here that you are players and I'm the coach, and that is the way that we operate on a day-to-day basis, and that is really, really important, guys, because the way I look at it here, if you think back to your school days, sometimes if you had that teacher that, they were great, you got on really well with them, but it was almost in the end like you were friends, well, then you get away with a bit more. You'd actually push things a bit further, see what you could get away with, and suddenly that dynamic, it's distorted. And suddenly then that teacher doesn't really have the authority. They can't command that kind of presence. And that's something you definitely want to avoid in a dressing room at the very top level in football there. So that's really, really important that Flick understands that dynamic and is making sure here to enforce it on a day-to-day basis. And I think you see exactly that kind of approach then when you're talking about rest days, when you're talking there about complete rest days at the club, because you know what? Under Hansi Flick, we are going to see very, very limited rest days at this club. And I'm talking here about complete rest. You may have those activation sessions, you may have a lighter day in training, but Flick feels it's very, very important here not to waste any time on the training ground here, even if it's getting the players together just to focus, just to gather, just to get them working in some degree and keeping the mind going. He believes here very much in keeping the players active, and he does not want to hand out more than one rest day per week. And I think that's really interesting because plenty of other Barcelona coaches we've seen, again, have almost used rest days as a reward. If you win this many games, if you do this well, then you can get a day off. You can get an extra day off. You can have 2 days off in a week. Now, only once so far during Flick's time at the club have we seen 2 days off given, and that was after a really hectic hectic run of games, lots of fixtures back to back to back to back, and he said, look, you can have 2 days off, but that was it. It will not be something that's given out as a reward. It is not even something that as a player, he wants you to be feeling. He wants everybody to be wanting to come into training, to be wanting to continue the work, and from what we've seen of these Barcelona players, that's what they all want to do. They want to be out there. They want to be in training. They want to be showing Flick exactly what they're capable of. And that is why on match day, every single player wants to play and they don't want to come off. They don't want to stop playing. That's the kind of culture we create here. The kind of attitude whereby you want to buy into this culture. You want to be a part of this team. You want to put in the effort and put in the work because everybody plays for each other. Everybody is working as one. And Hansi Flick, so far at this club, he is cooking. So those there, guys, were just some insights into what is going on behind the scenes at Barca under Flick so far. And please do let me know in the comments down below, what do you make of those commandments there from Hansi Flick? What do you make of some of those subtle changes that we've seen from inside of the club? And of course, out on the field, we are seeing the results of this hard work and important preparation that is always going on with him and his staff. So do let me know, guys, all of what you are feeling right now. We will be building up to Barca's return this week. I cannot wait for that, and I will see all of you guys soon. So thank you here for joining me, for all of you getting involved. But until next time, as always, Vejka, El Barça.